Hey everyone, this is Long again. I've had a chance to listen to the Stax SR-X9000 for the last maybe 3 days or so. I've tried to listen to it at different times of the day, including very early morning when my ears are more sensitive. And so, I did that to just kind of give the headphones a chance to kind of be experienced during different emotions during the day. Like, early in the morning, my ears are more and my brain is more fresh and willing to kind of accept a different sound. And so I really tried to do that for the last couple of days. And I read some comments of yours that said that maybe I would adjust to the sound of the SR-X9000s, and I find that I'm experiencing the same kinds of dissatisfaction with the sound. And so I really want to go into the sound aspect of the SR-X9000s and why I think that they're not as good as the SR-007 Mark Ones. And so so with this new flagship headphone, things like comfort and build quality, they're important. But considering that it's a flagship headphone, you would think that those things are kind of like second, and the first thing is especially the sound. And so that's why I'm only focusing on the sound aspect. And so I listened mostly to vocals, and I mostly listened to solo vocalists. And what I found with the SR-X9000s is that the sound of the mids are just a tiny bit grainier. So there's three different things. So one thing is that the mids are a little bit grainier than my 007 Mark Ones. They're a little bit more like, not recessed, but they're kind of like placed farther back. And the third thing is that the mids have less of a visceral feel. So with my SR-007 Mark Ones, vocals have a little bit more thickness, and they have this quality to them that makes you think that there's air moving between you and the vocalist. So vocals on the SR-007 Mark Ones are much more realistic. At sometimes I'm listening to my 007s and I feel like my brain is fooled into thinking that the vocals are real. And that's one of the most important qualities that I've experienced with my 007 Mark Ones. And when my brain is fooled into thinking that the vocals are real, then that's when the emotions and that's when my body kind of gets involved in the music. And I find that that doesn't really ever happen with the SR-X 9000s. And it kind of, it kind of pains me almost to say it, but I think that the SR-X 9000s, the only quality that they have that is better than my 007 Mark Ones is the highs. So the high end of the SR-X 9000s is more detailed for sure, and a little bit more present. So for example, on the cymbals and that kind of thing on the 9000s, you kind of hear them more, you notice them more. But other than that, I think, everything else, to be honest, everything else to me is better on my 007 Mark Ones. And some people will be like, oh, okay, what about the imaging? What about the sound stage? So the thing that I noticed with the SR-X 9000s is that the soundstage is larger for sure, but what it is it's larger, but then it doesn't feel confined. So like things are just floating in the middle of nowhere. So it to me it doesn't feel convincing. And the reason why I say when I talk about convincing is that, when we're into high-end audio equipment, presumably we are audiophiles. And as audiophiles, the thing that we want most is to feel like it's a live performance. And so with my 007 Mark 1s, I always feel like there's better placement in a room. So with my 007 Mark 1s, I always have a feeling or a better sense that I'm listening to the music and the music is being played in a room. Whereas with the SR-X9000s, sometimes I feel like the music's just played in like a vast space with no actual walls or anything. So that is actually another issue that I have with the SR-X9000s. It's just not convincing to me in terms of realism. I'm never fooled into thinking that I'm listening to live music. And sometimes with my 007 Mark 1s, I do have that feeling. Like, in my life, I've been to many different kinds of live music performances, including classical and your typical bands in a bar or a club. So I've listened to live music, and sometimes with my 007 Mark 1s, I really do feel like I'm there, and that's the quality that I love the most. And I think that quality comes through the 007 Mark 1's mid-range. And a lot of people who follow audio and follow headphones will say that mid-range is king. And I agree. I mean, mid-range is king, but a lot of other things contribute to the quality of the sound. And the 007 Mark 1s really, to me, do a lot of things right to make the mids more convincing. And the other thing that I want to talk about with the 007 Mark 1s versus the SR-X9000s is the bass. So the bass on the 007s is definitely more sloppy. Like, the bass kind of floats everywhere in the room. And actually, that's one of the things that makes me feel like there is a room. So the bass on the SR-X9000s is way tighter. So it kind of, the bass, you hear the bass, it rumbles the floor a little bit, and then it goes away. So it doesn't make you feel like the bass is floating in the air. With the SR-007 Mark 1s, you feel like the bass is rumbling the whole room, and it just stays in the room. So it gives you a sense of airiness that you don't get with the SR-X9000. And so I just want to emphasize that I've only listened to the SR-X9000s on solid state amps. And so I actually had a chance to try the SR-X9000s on a KGSS HV Carbon. I have the regular KGSS HV, but I also was able to try it on a Carbon, and it does sound better on the Carbon, but the same issues that I had with my KGSS HV showed up on the Carbon, which is the grainiest. It's just a slight, it's just a very slight graininess in the mid-range in vocals on the SR-X9000, and that slight graininess makes it sound more digital, and it doesn't make it sound convincing. And that's my problem. Like, my brain is never fooled into thinking that the vocals are real because of that slight graininess. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I'm not sure if that issue can be fixed by listening to it on a tube amp. And I think what happened, I don't know this for a fact, it could be variation in the headphones or something like that. But what I think happened was when people were auditioning the SR-X9000s, initially, they were turning the volume up really high because the way that the headphones portray the spectrum is that you can turn up the volume very high on the SR-X9000 and still be able to tolerate the music. And for sure, if you turn up the volume very high, then it does sound, very big and very impressive. But when you get down to the vocals and the mid-range, there's a certain graininess. There's a certain, and I also read some initial impressions of the SR-X9000s that said that it had more timbre. And I think the reason why people were saying that was because of the graininess. It wasn't actually timbre, it was actually increased graininess in the mid-range, and that's what they were hearing as increased or more timbre. And so, I am kind of conflicted with this headphone. To be honest with you, like, if I had to describe the SR-X9000, I would say that Stax needs to work on the mid-range. Like, I don't think it's acceptable. Like, the mid-range on the SR-007 Mark 1s are just so natural. They're smooth. They don't, they fool your brain into thinking it's real much more of the time than any other headphone that I've experienced. So the other mid-range that I was really impressed with was the HE1, the Sennheiser HE1s. That mid-range was very, captivating, and like it really made you feel like there was presence and power in it. And the mid-range on the 007 Mark 1s do the same thing for me. So I don't know what to say at this point other than that, maybe if I had tried the SR-X9000 on a hybrid amplifier, like a tube amplifier of some sort, it would be better. But the thing is, if the tube amplifier did improve the mid-range on the SR-X9000, it would also improve the mid-range on the SR-007 Mark 1s. If you know what I mean, like, the things that the amp does that's better usually does it better on all headphones. And so I think that at this point, people who are interested in the SR-X9000 should wait for more impressions, because I'm just one person, but I'm trying my best to describe to you what I experienced with the sound. And when you do listen to it, pay close attention to the mid-range and especially vocals, and see if there's a little bit grainier than you are used to, and if that graininess actually makes the vocals less convincing. And so those are my thoughts so far after about 3 days or so. I haven't really listened to them that much, maybe 2 or 3 hours total, but I listened to them, those 2 or 3 hours were spread throughout different times of the day on different days. So, take it with a grain of salt or whatever. So, you have to make your own conclusions. Sometimes something that I don't find pleasing will make you, will be something that you like. So, once again, thanks for listening, and hope you get a chance to listen to the SR-X9000 at some point.